Hello, everyone. Okay, folks, can you hear me? Can I get a yes or no if you can hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Cool, thank you. Sorry, I think for some reason I clicked on the control board and I thought I started the meeting, but I must have been in another room. Peter, how are you? Nice to see you.
Good to see you too.
Excellent, excellent. It's been very strange to be without softball this year.
So Massimo, we're just going to confirm that it was you that we couldn't get in because of, right?
I absolutely had my hands, put my hands up, and I mean,
well, I think that's just a typical good start for an umpire.
I joined from the control board on the Zoom app, and I had the meeting open and everything. But obviously, it must have been a different link or a different room. So glad we sorted out anyway. Okay, I think there you go. Chris has just joined. And I can see Vinny from Galway is here, Richard as well. So we have quite a few people today, which is great. So just a bit of housekeeping, really. The way we're going to do this today is Paul Peak is going to present the slides, and nice picture, Carl. Is going to present the slides. We're going to take a break for questions in the middle of the presentation, about 2 or 3 times during the presentation, so that we can allow for questions. So, and we're also going to record this presentation so that we can have it available for future events. So if I can ask you, obviously, unless you're speaking, mute yourself. And if you have questions, maybe take note of the question or send them to me privately. You can do that through the chat. If you go to the chat, then basically you go to the person, you can actually select it to speak privately to that person. So you can send the message privately to me if you want to do that. And obviously I can take note of the questions and then sort of relay them to Paul and Martin. So we also have some guests today from the UK. We have Pete Saunders and Christopher Moon. Pete and Chris are very much involved with Software Europe. They are licensed WBSC umpires as well, and Chris is also Softball Euro's chief umpire and trainer as well. And we also have Martin from Belfast. He's our Softball Ireland chief umpire. So it's great to have quite a few experienced umpires on board today. So I'm sure that you guys will have no problem stepping in if you want to answer some of the questions. The presentation we're going through today actually is very much familiar to Pete and Chris, because I think they have actually put together the presentation themselves. The course that we're doing today is very much based on the day 1 course of the British Association of Softball Umpires. So thanks to Chris and Pete actually for providing the materials in the first place, because that is obviously very much appreciated. Colm, I don't know if you want to say anything before we start.
Yeah, I'm just going to say a few words to start, Massimo, then I'm going to leave you at it. First of all, thank you very much for everybody joining the call. I would welcome our guests from the UK, and Pete and Chris Moon, are better known as the only 2 umpires ever to warn me in a game. I think Pete.
So the only ever umpire to do their job, basically.
Well, Pete did try to eject me in 2013 from Pardubice, but we knew that wasn't really going to happen. I just bought him a beer afterwards. But no, look, to Paul Peak and Massimo, they put lots of work into this. So thank you very much. And having seen the slides and the forums, I know it's going to be a really engaged and good session. This obviously coming out of our working group that we formed last year is more kind of create more training opportunities for umpires in Ireland. Obviously, we still have a shortage. COVID has changed the plans. We had hoped of doing kind of like introduction courses in person in March, but unfortunately they've gone out the window. But like, there's a great opportunity. This is the first of hopefully many courses. And I was back again. So, but like, wish everyone the best of luck. You know, I mean, the more umpires we get, the better, and the better, and it's only good for the sport, and we get more people playing then as well. So I'm going to leave you all. Thank you very much for joining, and I look forward to your feedback afterwards. Chris and Pete, great seeing you. Hopefully at some point we get over to Ireland umpiring again. Okay, Martin, thanks very much for joining from up north. All right, take care, guys. Bye-bye.
Okay, thank you, Colin. Much appreciated. So I think we're good to start now. So I'll pass the baton to Paul now for the presentation on the slides. Paul, up to you.
Great. Unmuted. Hi, everybody. Thanks, Massimo. We're going to spend a little bit of time this evening. It's a very basic introductory course, very different from how we normally do it, as we all know. I think we've all got used to these little Zoom chats. I usually have beer in my hand, you know, at this hour of the night with a Zoom chat, chatting to the lads all around the world, but we'll have to do, this is black current, I'll have to do without for the next hour or so. So we've built in through the slides, it'll be, look, it's a slide deck that I'm going to talk through. We're going to go through it in sections. It's 30 odd slides. I'm not going to spend all night just reading off the slides. So I'm going to talk around them, let you read them as they are. And as issues kind of come up we'll have little section breaks and we'll have time for a few questions then in between. Hopefully get it all done in about an hour, 15, hour, 20 minutes. And again, myself and Massimo are online for any questions that you have, you know, not just tonight, but any time over the next kind of number of weeks. Okay, so everybody all right? Everybody hear me? Great, we're all ready to start. Great. All right, so Massimo, if you can start off the first slide there and we'll talk us through it. So really, like, tonight's session is a basic run through of what we're going to do pre-game, during the game, and, you know, most of the kind of calls and signals, you know, rules that you're going to compromise about 80 to 90% of any normal game. And we're not going to go into the more advanced stuff. That's for, you know, the next session or the next course that we're going to run. Today is to get you started. It's to get you competent and confident enough to stand up behind the plate and kind of go, yeah, I know what it is I'm talking about. So I think everybody here has played at some stage in the past. So I don't think we're looking at anybody completely new or novice in. So if we can kick off a start, bring it up here. So again, tonight's session, just an introductory session, where we're going to look at, you know, the basics that are required, oversee the particulars of the game, interpret and enforcement of the rules, and handle any discipline issues. So, like, it goes with the ethos of umpiring. We want to be the impartial individual that controls the game, that manages the game. So again, tonight's topics: pre-game, the playing field, the equipment used, what happens before the pitch, pitching and strike zone, fair and foul, and the basic signals. All right. So if you were to look at, let's say, the first three of those, that's pretty much your pre-game in any game that happens any night. That can be done in about 30 minutes. So you can inspect the field, you can talk with both teams, you can run through the, you know, ground rules, you can check the equipment, you can go through the safety and go through any basic rules in 30 minutes before any game's due to start. Okay, so this is the point. This is the points that we're going to pick through tonight over the next hour and a half or so. Okay, right. Next one there, Mass. Okay, so pre-game. We're getting for you to arrive at least 15, 20 minutes before the game. I said 30 minutes. 30 minutes is good. I'm experienced at this stage. I know I can run through all the pre-game here in 20 minutes. 15 minutes is leaving a little bit tight. It allows you to check the field dimensions. Again, with COVID, we're not touching anything. We're leaving it up to the home team to ensure that the field is laid out and measured correctly. So it's observation at this stage. in our games. It's an introduction to both teams, and that's a hello, greetings, and the purpose, who you are, and the purpose of you being here tonight. We'll run through any safety notices that are, particularly now kind of COVID. We'll do a pre-game checklist, which we'll identify for you. We have a separate sheet for pre-game checklist, and we'll get that mailed to you. And we'll do lineup sheets, which normally will have been done electronically throughout the course of the day, and confirm start time. So start time is, in our league, is 7 o'clock, and there's a little bit of leeway then in relation to people that are late or, game starting. So that's our pre-game. Again, the pre-game can be done in about 15, 20 minutes, and we usually have just a script that we can work off. My own script is an introductory, hello, my name is, I'm here to umpire your game this evening. We're going to run through some basic safety requirements. We're going to ask everybody to remove every rings, watches, and jewelry. Again, safety. We're going to check equipment. We're going to check your shoes. We're going to check the balls. We're going to, any questions throughout the game. Who am I dealing with? Who's the captain? We're going to be looking at who's keeping score. Who am I going to be officiating with, rather than this melee of individuals kind of coming at me. So we identify all that pre-game with the team, and that rules out then us foreseeing any mishaps that may kind of come down later on over the course of the game. Got that? So basic field. We play in corners of football pitches and rugby pitches. So it's up to the home team to mark out the field. So we look at our diamond, we look at our fair territory, our foul territory, and our dead ball territory. With some measurements kind of coming up here in the next one. We don't have a lot of home run fences, but what we do have is that extendable play. So we have our bases, we have our coaches' boxes, our home plate, and not very often do we have our coaches' boxes marked out, or indeed our batters' boxes marked out, which we'll come to that a little bit later on. So we look at the measurements that we have: 65 feet between bases. Experienced umpire will have that measured out on many times before now. A little bit of advice to that is, if you can take your regular stride, your regular pacing stride, that you can pretty much gauge within a foot or two what your base measurement is between the home plate and first base. So I know I can pace out 22 steps between home plate and first base. Between second base, third base is going to be the same, 22 strides, and it pretty much works on, as not very often as you can do. You learn to take a right angle. If I was in the military, I'd be able to turn on a sixpence at a 90-degree angle. So it's being able to turn, take a point at your 90-degree angle, and take your 22 steps. But if you use the symmetry and geometry, you can take 2 points and 22 steps from either side. They should match up to give you a second base distance. Pitcher's plate, again, you can measure that out. For myself, it's 16 paces and 2 baby steps. So that's 50 feet for me. So very handy now that now that I think of it, I'm going to do some work in my garden and I need to measure out 100 feet. So it'll be, 33 steps, 33 paces. Thanks very much. All right. But again, that will all be done by pre-captain. But, you can pace it out very quickly, very casually. And any questions that you might think, you can then go to your home team and kind of go, can I see the measurements that have been done to this? Do we have a tape? Has it been measured? Who did it? Thanks very much. And you do that before the game starts, rather than waiting until halfway through the game and the pitchers are not able to get the ball over the plate and they're kind of going, oh, this is too far away, or it's too near, or whatever the case will be. So you're ruling out any possible questions or queries that may come down later in the game. We have our dead ball line and foul ball line. So we look at the measurements of those. Again, we're looking at 12, paces for me for a stride from a base to a dead ball line. So that, again, that's measuring out, your 25 to 30 feet. So again, measure it out yourself. Take a little note. Keep one sheet of paper, how many strides it is for you on any given day. And the more times you do it, the more time you'll be able to do it within 6 inches or so. Okay, so that's your field dimensions. It's the basic part of the game. It's difficult for us a lot of the time because we don't have fields marked out, and we have to rely on home teams to put down cones and put down bases and measure everything out. But it's the one thing that can cause issues and problems for you halfway through a game, if a bases start to move, or if people are sort of, pitchers are complaining that the distance isn't right, that they're not able to get the strike zone, they're not able to get the ball over the plate because it's too close or it's too far, so wipe that out at the start, and then you can build that into your conversation at the start with both teams in your introductory. I have checked the field and everything is good. And this is where we can kind of come in to hear what we have here is ground rules or special rules. So because not everywhere is a uniform size, there are pitches that we have of little slopes and trees and all sorts of walls that are encroaching and part of the field. You may need to have a conversation with both teams in relation to where there are holes in the ground or fences or whatever it might be. And you may need to decide on a ground rule that's very specific to that particular field. So there may be a short home run boundary. So again, you could have it playing on a rugby pitch and right field is whatever it is, 75 meters off to one side, and it's 120 on left field. You may need to have a home and a small wall in right field. You may set up a ground rule in relation to if that ball is hit against the wall or over the wall, what are the rules pertaining to that shortened field on one side? You're looking at immovable objects in the outfield, and that could be a goalpost at the other end of a soccer pitch. What happens if the ball hits that and reflects back or bounces off sideways or, goes into a hole where the goalpost used to be? All right, so we're looking at trying to mitigate any issues or questions that you may have to face later on in the game. Basic concept of umpiring is to keep it fair for everybody. So again, if you're able to have time to inspect a field, you're getting there before everybody else. You're trying to anticipate where these, hazards may come up for you as an umpire. May agree upon that's again, there are certain pitches that the league has agreed what the ground rules are, and that's pretty much will be the local knowledge with the local home team. So if you're not sure what it is, you can ask the local team, what are the regular ground rules here? What are the things I need to watch out for if it's a particular field that you have never umpired on before? All right. So again, must be clearly explained to both teams, and courtesy runners are at the discretion of the league. We'll leave that. We'll come back to the courtesy runners again. Courtesy runners are to do when people are injured and things like that, and how do we make informal substitutes. But we're not going to cover that today. Okay. So playing fields, the ground fitness. It's up to you to determine whether the ground is playable or not. Is it safe? Are there holes? Are there divots? Are there issues that you're going to have to deal with if there are injuries, trips, slips, falls? You're responsible for identifying the level of safety for that field. Okay. Again, talk to the team captains. You don't want to put undue influence, and you're using your common sense here. So if there's a massive big hole in between the base in the baseline between first and second base, and people are going to have to go down through a dip, trip, slip, fall, catch their ankle, that's a danger. So you may look at having to shift that field to where it's a little bit safer, depending on the space available. So they're the type of things that you want to be watching out pre-game. Okay. So in that pre-game conversation, what do you need to be kind of looking out for? In this particular instance, we're going to look at the shoes. People wear all sorts of, football boots and rugby boots and baseball cleats and, flip-flops and everything. So we have a basic standard of shoe that's required to be able to play a game. And it doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be fancy. And basic runners will often do it. But all players must wear shoes. So you cannot play softball in the league that we have in your bare feet. If you want to play, beach softball, off you go. But it's not considered part of the protective equipment that we require to play softball here. Canvas or leather shoes or similar materials. Soles either smooth or with a soft, hard rubber stud or cleat. All right. You're not allowed to wear non-nylon or plastic spikes. So again, that's safety. So you're looking at something soft, not hard, and no rounded metal studs or baseball spikes. They are illegal. So no rugby boots with big long studs. You get studs this length, shiny metal ones, or you have your baseball cleats that are, like a little smooth blade. Normally we'd take them out of my bag now and throw them around and see, how would you like that to get raked down your front shin with a pair of these. All right, and then no open toe sandals. Again, for safety. Equipment, accessories. Again, part of my warm-up speech, we said it earlier on, can I ask everybody at this stage to nicely remove all rings, watches, and jewelry. So again, it's a little bit of protection here for not necessarily just the individual, but for other players as well. So if you've somebody going around with a big 10-carat, diamond ring, and they're running past somebody in first base, and they throw their hand in the air, and the ring happens to catch somebody along the face or in the eye, that's a potential hazard. So you want to remove those hazards as early and as quickly as possible. Okay, so we look at medical bracelets and necklaces can be worn, and again, but we're looking for them to be taped to the body. Wedding rings, I don't wear one myself, but that doesn't mean that, if I was wearing one all the time, that I wouldn't have to put some sort of tape on it, again, to stop the ring catching on, loose pieces of clothing or buttons or things like that, where fingers can be seriously damaged by rings getting caught if somebody moving at speed past somebody else. All right, jewelry may be worn if the umpire judges it not to be a danger. All right, but again, it must be covered. You see people with lots of earrings. I know the league in which I umpire is a number of individuals have 10, 15 studs, on both ears, and to ask them to remove them or to tape them is a real point of impact for them. But they've learned. They kind of go, they don't play unless they either cover them up. So they come in next week with a beautiful hairband, lovely colors, and the ears are completely covered. So it's simple enough to do if we're nice about it, and we explain the reasons why we're doing it. And it is because we want to maintain levels of safety for everybody playing the game, not just so I can look out there and be pretty with all my bling. All right. We look at some of the issues that, again, not very common, but again, you may need to look out for somebody coming up to plate. Oh, I have a broken leg, or I have a prosthesis, or I have a cast on. The chances of it happening are low. But again, your main focus pre anybody stepping into that batter's box is to make sure that they are safe for themselves and for anybody else that they may collide with. I wouldn't really fancy somebody colliding with somebody, standing on first base as they're running through at, 20 odd miles an hour, and they happen to lift an arm with a cast and, knock me over. Not something I would, like to see without a cast on, but I certainly wouldn't like to see it with a cast on. So they're the types of things that we need to be looking out for: padding, safety, and protection. Okay. We have a questions session coming up shortly. So again, pre-game, before anything happens, none of us are bat experts. Believe it or not, we all rely on, there's got to be 10,000 bats out there. So we rely on the basic information that's printed on that bat to enable us as umpires to determine whether the bat is legal or not. All right. But there's differences between legal bats and illegal bats. If we go through the rule book, it'll categorize everything. Today, we're going to, look at the very basic tips that we need to be able to, again, to determine safety for both people holding the bat and for anybody, taking a ball or the bat being broken and being sent at speed into somebody's direction. So the bats must be round and smooth. Okay. So you can't have a, cricket bat, you can't have, hurleys, you can't have anything else. So a softball bat is a softball bat. It's not a baseball bat. And there are dimensions that lay out. And it can't be longer than 34 inches, and it can't have a diameter of more than 2¼ inches. We do have measuring rings that are available, for umpires. And again, you get used if you're, checking bats in a pre-COVID world. You used to be able to pick up bats and check them and touch them. Now it's pure observational skills. I umpired a game on Tuesday night, and I was able to check the bats by rolling them with my foot on the ground. not very scientific, but you're looking for little rattles. You're looking to see, are there any glints? Are they smooth? Are they, are they round? Are there any damaged areas on them? And that's really what we want to do. They're metal bats. They can wear out, they can splinter, they can fracture, they can break. And, some batters will have a bat for a number of years, and what they find that the more punishment a bat gets, the thinner the wall becomes, and the thinner the wall becomes, the more spring, and a ball will come off faster, and people prefer that. But when that begins to become thinner, it also becomes a danger because they can split, crack, and break. All right. And again, we look at the handle. Is it safe to use in particularly Irish weather, where it's often moist and wet and not too sunny? That it's taped, and with no more than 2 layers of continuous tape. So the tape is there to act as a grip and a barrier to stop the ball from slipping. All right. Anybody asleep yet? Okay, you're all right. All right. An illegal bat. Okay, what's happened? So if you can identify what an illegal bat is before a game, you won't ever have to go through the protocols that are required, of the batter being out and the arguments and whatever else. So if you can get your eyes over the bats that people are going to be used. Again, part of my pre-game is you can come up to teams and have 30 or 40 bats, and they almost expect you to check every one of them. And some of those bats have been 10, 20 years old. They'll be lying at the bottom of the bat bag. And you could go and politely ask again, are these, what are the bats you're using tonight? All right. So it comes down to a case of, I don't want to check every bat, but I want to check the ones that you're going to be using mostly tonight. And, it's been able to look at those bats and then remove the rest of them, put them away, get them away out of sight, put them to the back of the dugout, back behind everybody else's bag, to put them in the cars, whatever the case may be. And you won't have any issue about people stepping up into the batter's box, in front of home plate with a bat that kind of, hold on a minute, that looks a bit funny, or you hear it swing and hit a ball and it's got a rattle, or it's got a dent, or you see, so try and remove that beforehand. Again, you want it to be safe. Any altered bat, again, doesn't really happen in our league, but it's talking about the physical structure of the bat has been changed and the batter is ejected. See you, good luck, goodbye. It's cheating. All right. Next one, I think okay. Again, we're still on pre-game. Hopefully I can, we get this done in about the same amount of time as we have been in our pre-game phase. But a team must have a minimum starting of 9 players. All right. Can't play with 8. You can't play with 7. You can't play with 6. Oh, they're on their way. We start at 7 o'clock, and there's 10 minutes grace in our league in relation for that game to start. They can start, any team can start with 9, but they cannot change the batting order, depending on, when Sheila comes along or Paul is late and, I want to put him in as number 2 now. So it's the pre-game. We get the batting order, has been kind of emailed or text to us before the game. We're not touching paper these days. So, but we can be as flexible as we can with that list until the start of the game. So pre-game, can I have your selected list, what you gave me earlier on, or is it a case of making any changes, what you've texted me or what you've emailed me? There are some changes, and we can verify that, at that point in the game. You can have a look at score sheets, batting order, who's batting where, who's doing what. Okay. So once the game starts, you cannot change that batting order. So what's set out at the start must be there towards the end of the game. And there's reasons for that as we kind of go through, if there's injuries or substitutions. But again, we're not going to spend a lot of time doing that this evening, but we're going to go. If you get the basics right at the start, it makes it a lot easier for you to manage things then later on. Okay. Now, in our league, we play either we can play with 10 players or we can play with 12. All right. We play a 6 and 4 league, as we all know. So it's 6 men, 4 women, or we can play, to the correct rules within co-ed softball, that's 5 and 5. Or you can play with 12 players and there are 2 extra players, and there's 2 extra players in the hitting order, or can be subbed in and out in relation to field positions, but they're on the lineup sheet. And just because they're identified as a fielder in a specific position doesn't mean that they have to remain on that. So you can make your substitutions in and out as long as you have your 12 players on the batting order. All right. So each gender must bat consecutively through the entire batting order. So you start with a girl, male, female, male, female, male, female, or vice versa. You start with a male and you finish off consecutively male, female, female, male. Okay. You must have 2 men in the infield and 2 women in the infield, 2 men in the outfield, 2 in the outfield. Okay. So just because you've 7 male in the, let's say, extra players, you can't have seven women or 7 men and 3 women. You must stick with the ratios that are there. Okay. These are all very quiet. I usually, expect a lot more interaction from my students. Maybe it might be a bad idea to turn those mics off, or turn them back on again. Okay, so pre-game batting order. A batter must be the same throughout the game. We've done that. Must be delivered to the umpire at the beginning of the game unless the player needs to replace a substitute, and we'll talk about substitutes a little bit later on. The first batter at each inning should be the one whose name follows the last beat. And the third out is made. Okay, that's good basic softball. We could have left that one out. Right, we've covered that already. Go on, next one, Massimo. Okay, good. Questions? Mass, I think if we can turn everybody's mic on, and rather than everybody jumping in, so just give me a little wave if you want to kind of come in. I haven't got everybody, but I'll try and see. David.
Yeah, just a quick question on the infield breakdown. Playing before it come up, there are 2 in the infield, 2 men and 2 women.
Yeah.
If does that include the catcher? Can the catcher be a role plus 1? Okay. First, second, and third short, or does it have to be 2 on the bases and then a third as catcher?
It's good question, and it's not that I purposely left it out, but we would kind of go. We can, because we have a variation of 6 and 4, so we must have 2 in the infield and two in the outfield. It doesn't include the pitcher catcher combination. So they're in defensive positions, in first and second. Okay, so you can have a male pitcher and a male catcher. All right, but what happens then if you have a female pitcher? What do you think would happen then? Again, I'm coming back to your question. It's a good question. So yes, the pitcher is included as part of that defensive infield. Okay. So yes, you can have a female pitcher as part of your defensive infield.
But okay. What about the catcher? Because that's the one where one of the teams we played in previous years, they had one of their 2 ladies as catcher, and then I think they had a female on third, and the rest were males, and they were saying that was their tool. Okay,
that's fine.
I thought somebody had tried to correct them and said no, it has to be out, and I wasn't sure. So
no, that's okay. Okay. So as long as you have 2 in the outfield, 2 in the infield, that's your minimum of 4. You can't stick all 3 girls in outfield or 3 girls in the infield.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Okay.
There's a question here from Amanda. Can you play 4 and 6? I'm assuming you mean 4 male and 6 female. Absolutely. It's always 6 and 4. Then the 6 can be either male or female. It doesn't matter. And in fact, actually, we have a team in Dublin, the Chuggers. They have quite a big female contingent, and quite a few times last year I umpired them. They had at least a 5 and 5 split, if not a 6 and 4, meaning 6 female and 4 male. So absolutely.
Now I'm going to ask another question. Sorry, Amanda. I think we leave that at the ratio 6 and 4. We never go 7 and 3. So once the ratio is equal, 6 and 4 male female, we don't really mind which way is 6 or 4.
That's absolutely entirely up to the teams how to want to split up.
And does that change the infield at all? So obviously if you're playing 4 guys and 6
girls,
it
just reverses, because it means that you have to have 2 men in the outfield and 2 men in the infield.
And it doesn't matter that they're the pitcher and the catcher.
It doesn't matter. Once you have the 2 and 2, you're good with it. Also, I actually had a couple of questions. I was nice to see Pete's expression where you were talking about the earrings, the sequel of about 10 or 15 earrings. Pete's face was very telling about that. But it's actually about the accessory. I have a couple of questions, obviously. One I think is very relevant to these days is fitness trackers. I would be curious to know from anyone in the panel, whether it's Pete, Martin, or Paul, or Chris, if I can have your opinion on that.
Yeah, it's as far as I'm concerned, it's a watch. It can get caught on people's fingers. It can caught on pieces of clothing. I ask it for it to be removed. If it's not removed, it can be covered up with a sweatband or something. You can wear your fitness tracker on your ankle and your sock. I don't particularly mind if I see it. I don't want to have to throw you out of a game because I've asked you to remove your watch. So it's something that's visible. Okay.
Yeah, sorry, this is Martin here. I hope my connection is okay. I would agree with that. One thing I would like to say as well, as an umpire, you are there to facilitate the game, but also you should work with these rules. So as an umpire, I would also advise not to wear any watches, any rings, anything like that, just to give the right example to the players in the field.
Ourselves, yeah. No rings, no watches.
Chris, you wanted to come through?
Please, yeah. Last year, actually, in UK, we got rid of our no jewelry rule because really we had a lot of discussion about it for years and years and years. We said no jewelry at all. If you weren't born with it, you weren't playing with it. But the WBSC allow jewelry as long as the umpire deems it not to be distracting, i.e. a big gold medallion on the pitcher's chest with the sun behind the batter, I mean, it's obviously distracting. But, if your local rules say no jewelry, that's fine. I think it's a good way to start. I liked what Paul was saying earlier on. He used a couple of words actually that I think are worth remembering throughout your whole umpiring career. One was preventative, i.e. preventative umpiring about the bats and about the jewelry. Don't be an idiot umpire, looking for a cheap out. If you know something is wrong, do something about it before the situation arises. I think that's just the best start you can make. And the other word that Paul used was anticipate. And that is crucial. We always anticipate things, but we never ever predict them. And again, it's going to be the same throughout everything you learn in umpiring. Anticipate things. What may happen? What can I do to prevent it? And if you can start off like that and make it your mantra, your job will be an awful lot easier. Anyway, that was my little bit. The jewelry thing, I guess, is entirely up to you guys. We've dropped it here. The WBSC Europe or ESF, is the same as WBSC.
Yeah.
They allow jewelry.
It usually isn't an issue at all. And again, if we can identify it early enough that give people time, you're not doing it as they step into the box. You've had a conversation 10, 15 minutes before a game's due to start. And if they're having real difficulty, I can't take it out. Well, what are we? Okay.
Yeah, no, I have the same approach as Paul as well. I normally ask them to take, obviously, because it's a rule, we need to enforce it. But in general, if there's a difficulty about taking them out or there's friction about it, I make a call whether, similar to what I will do with the shoes. Metal cleats are sharp, but they're dangerous. So if some jewelry might have appendixes that are sharp or are dangerous, or a ring that you can get caught on and literally tear the skin off the ears, then that's dangerous. I don't want to see that on the field, on the grounds of health and safety. It's not about aesthetics, obviously. So if I deem something dangerous, I definitely don't want the players to have it on.
Okay, back to slides. Otherwise,
Okay.
we can have this conversation, all night.
Yeah, just give me a second. There you go. Next slide.
Okay. So regulation game. Regulation game is 7 innings. That's 7 opportunities for both teams to score runs. All right. A game can be called after 5 innings. So a legal game is 5, but we play 7, and we can play more than 7 if it's a game is tied after 7 innings. An umpire can call a game, cease the game after 5 innings. That's both teams having 5 opportunities to hit the ball for darkness, rain, fire, etc. Don't get a lot of fires, but we do get a lot of darkness and a lot of rain. So it's about being preemptive. At a long game, it's 4 innings at the end of September, and it's 4.5 innings in, and it's getting darker, and you want to possibly have a chat with both team captains and say, we're not going to get 7 innings played here, people, tonight. So it may be 6, but I might have to call it after 5. If you can get that in early, you run yourself out of all that difficulty and problems when it comes to 5.5 innings, and you're sort of saying, I'm calling the game here, everybody. Because you've already been, give them a little bit of warning, and they're not going to be jumping down your throat for sort of saying, oh, we were saving our big hits until the very last inning. Okay. Again, we want to watch out for other causes that puts the patrons or players in peril. I like that. But again, it's safety. It's your responsibility to have those extra pair of eyes, for spectators, people walking through, an outfield with their dog kind of going, oh, what's great, whatever, it's your responsibility to stop the game at that particular time. Because you don't want anybody hit by a ball flying out or, whatever it might be. Okay. If a non-regulation or a regulated tie game, they can be the game will be replayed from the beginning. Don't worry about that now. It's something we'll kind of cover in our next session. But it is about, there are rules there that regulate, that you don't have to make it up at any given time if it's a tie game after 5 or 7 innings. All right.
It will be a decision of the league that manages the game anyway. So
Yeah.
It's not for us to worry too much about.
So we don't worry about it today, but we left it in there just for your information purposes only. It's like, it's there if you need it. We do have what is commonly known as the mercy rule. So again, rather than a game going on, all night, and you got one very strong team that's scoring, 10, 20, 30, 40 runs after somebody else. So a game can be called early if a team is more than 20 runs ahead after 4 innings, or more than 15 runs after 5 innings. So, that's your official, ending of that particular game. If it does happen here, your game could be over in, 45 minutes. You say, thank you very much. And off you go. Teams can continue to play on, all they want, or you can continue to officiate in a non-official capacity after that time. But your official game after that, it ends after a team is 20 or 15 runs ahead after those particular innings.
It's important to clarify that this run-ahead rule is actually the European international rule, the WBSC. In Ireland, we actually, especially the Southern Leinster League, has a different rule, as in the 20 or more runs count is after 5 innings, and the 15 or more runs is after 6 innings. It's just to allow the teams to play 1 extra inning in that case.
That's news to me, Marcel. Thanks very much.
Yeah.
Next slide.
That's why we messed it up last year. It only happens once.
Just a point to clarify, it is after 5 or more innings. So if there's, I believe that. So if there's 15 or more than 15 scores run in the 6th inning, you can call it as well. 5 or more innings.
Yeah.
Excellent. We can change that slide. Next one. Okay, scoring runs. Do we all know how to score runs? Got to go first. Got to touch first, touch second, touch third, touch home. Okay. Yay. And, we'll leave it at softball and baseball analogies only. You know, we get to first, get to second base. That means something completely different to Amanda. All right. So
you will think it's that easy, but it's not.
Yeah. Okay. So it's your job as an umpire to make sure, this is very basic stuff, to make sure that every runner touches those bases. Okay. So when everybody else is running around, you know, looking at the ball, it's your job to keep tracking those runners to make sure that they are touching every one of those bases. Because again, we get into what we kind of call appeal plays and everything else. So again, you're being preemptive. And if you're watching and seeing the runner touch those bases, you know that they have scored a run. Simple as that. That's one of the one of those good basic skills that we, if we're able to manage and watch, we're able to see. Okay. On the final batting order, you know, no runs will score on a third out if it's a force out, an appealed force out. Again, these are, you know, runners running from third to home while there's the big fly ball caught out. Not going to go into too much detail here again. A forced runner is when somebody is on first base, the batter comes up, hits the ball, and that runner from first is forced to move to second. All right? And we'll spend a little bit more time on runners and everything else, but scoring a run must hit each of those bases. Next one then. All right? Sorry, Massimo, just bring it back there one slide. So runs scored at the end of a particular inning. It's not the umpire's job to keep score at the end of that inning or that game. But a very good practical piece of advice is, at the end of that inning, if you can confirm with the team that's just come in off the field, you know, and the team that have been batting, how many runs have you scored? And they say 3, and the other team is gonna, oh, we've no idea. We weren't kind of keeping count. But they can do a quick chat amongst themselves. Yeah, 3 runs. And if you're able to confirm at the end of each half inning whether there's a score or not, you remove one of those issues that can cause you trouble at the end of a game when there's a dispute about who scored or who didn't score or what the actual score of the game is. All right? So runs scored, every half inning, if you had a chat with the scorekeeper or the captain, how many runs scored, can you confirm? Yes, no, boom. And that is, at that point, you managing a game and managing yourself out of trouble later on. Okay? Next slide. Sorry, Massimo. Balls that we use. Male batters use a 12-inch ball. Female batters use an 11-inch ball. Those balls are supplied by the home team. With COVID, each team is supplying their own balls at this stage. They have to be, you know, new, clean, and everything COVID related, disinfected between innings. Nobody's touching anybody else's balls. You know, it just makes a lot of fun in the commentary throughout the course of the game. You know, you can have your own fun with touching your own team's balls. You can't touch the other team's balls. Okay. If an incorrect ball is used, all right, the offensive team will have the option to accept the result of the play or request a repitch using the correct ball, the same ball with the striker account. All right. So there is a benefit to using the smaller ball. Smaller ball has a greater trajectory and greater velocity because it travels through the air a little bit quicker. The core and the density of the ball are the same, but again, because it's a little bit smaller, it travels a little bit faster. It travels a little bit further. Okay, next slide. Before the pitch, the preliminaries, all right? Some of this doesn't necessarily fit with us because we don't have all our pitches marked out. But so before the pitch is made, okay, so you've now started the game. You've invited the batter up into the home plate or the batter's box. The defensive team are in the field. They're all inside the 90-degree field dimensions, and you say you're going to start the game. All right, so the batter must be in the batter's box, and we'll look at batter's boxes a little bit later on. But that is in a hitting position next to the home plate. The catcher must be in a position to receive the pitch. And again, COVID, we have distance relations, where catchers are now standing. All defensive players must be in fair territory, so they must be within the 90 degrees. And both pitcher's feet firmly on the ground with one in contact with the pitcher's plate. So the pitcher's plate is 50 feet away from the home plate. front of the body facing the batter and come to a complete stop with the ball in one or both hands in front or side of the position. There used to be an old expression about presenting the ball. You know, show me the ball, it's there in front. All right. It's not that I'm ready to start the game here now. I'm going to show you it up. All right. And the position being retained for at least 1 second before the start of delivery. So you're talking about a pitcher on the plate, pausing, I'm ready to play, and the pitcher goes, ready, play. All right. The pitcher should not wear any tape or any glove in the pitching hand. Again, you know, you're not going to wear anything for grip or stickiness or causing, you know, interference with how that ball travels, or a white glove to be able, or a yellow glove to mask where's the ball or what way it is. So pitcher's hand must be free of any tape or any gloves. And a delayed dead ball is called if an illegal pitch is ruled. All right, we'll look at it, delayed dead ball, what it is, but it's that usually, you know, it's the illegal pitch, and there's a signal where the left arm goes out, and you're assisting the batter because the pitch has not been legal. It has not been carried out within the, you know, the parameters in which the ball must travel, and that's kind of coming up next. Okay, so here we have the batter's box. You know, batter's box is 7 foot by 3 foot. We don't usually have them marked out unless it's kind of competition. We don't spend a lot of time.
Umpire.
Yeah. Well, again, unless the umpire there mark it out myself. I used to mark it out. I haven't done any this year, but as it stands at the moment, I know where a batter's box is, and unless somebody is wildly putting their foot, you know, way out, or putting their foot on the plate, or you can't see my hands, I'm pointing to my own screen here now, it doesn't work, you know, outside those white lines, if your foot lands outside those white lines while you're making contact with the ball, you're out. Okay.
I have a big piece of cardboard and spray paint that I bring with me every game, so I can mark out the batter box. It makes my life a lot easier.
Yeah. Okay. Next one. The catcher. So the catcher must remain within their catcher's box. How that works with COVID now is we have a 2 meter distance between any batter and the catcher. The umpire is now 2 meters away from that catcher. So you could have an umpire that's 4 meters away from, you know, the strike zone.
That's a fair distance.
That makes it a little bit more challenging for umpires to convincingly call balls and strikes. I'm very good at it. You know, I can do it from 6 meters away. I know Amanda will testify to that. You know, I did a great game on Tuesday, and you know,
of course you did.
You know, it was all good from a little bit further away than I normally like to do it. Okay, so we'll read up on that for those. So, and the pitcher shall return the ball directly to the pitcher after each pitch. So it's a pre-COVID thing, but it's a post-COVID thing as well. So the only people that are touching the balls are the ones that need to, you know, be involved in that particular play. Okay. Any questions on that? So that's the pitcher, the batter, the catcher, just as that game is kind of starting off. Pete, you look as if you got a question there.
Yeah, well, it's an observation more than a question. You're saying scoring runs, the runner's got to touch the bases. I make it very obvious I'm looking at bases, particularly home. You know, it's almost like when you're doing a driving test, mirror, I'm looking at the mirror.
Yeah.
So I really emphasize I'm looking at home plate, and it stops people making just wild, oh, they've missed home plate, because they can see I'm looking. Yeah. If they can't see you looking, they're more likely to ask. That's really...
Usually what happens in our league here is if somebody's accidentally missed a base, it's not on purpose that they're kind of trying to grab, you know, an extra yard or two by cutting a corner.
Yeah.
So, and again, to be very visible, to make people sort of say, you know, after the play is over, you know, or after the game is over, did everybody touch every base here tonight? So you're maybe watching out for next week's game when these players are kind of, oh God, this guy is watching, you know, me touch every base. So I'm going to make sure that I do it.
Yeah. I say it stops the fielders appealing just all the time.
Making silly appeals.
You're doing it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Amanda?
That's a question. So just on that as well. So if a player doesn't touch a base, so say you notice they haven't touched second, but they carry on and they're coming home, do you let them know, I'd say, like as they're halfway to third?
No.
So you don't tell them at all. It's when they get home, you tell them you didn't touch.
Because it is an appealable play. So as Pete was saying, he makes it very visible to the defensive team that he's watching the bases. So you won't have a shortstop or a second baseman, she missed second base. And you're kind of going, no, she definitely touched it. But if you're not watching, you're kind of going, no, safe. So you're losing credibility there. So it is an appealable play. And once the batter has passed home and, hit their dugout and the next pitch kind of comes in, that appeal play is gone. So if they missed, let's say, home plate, for instance, and the catcher kind of comes back and kind of goes, oh, he missed home plate, you're able to make a call in that instance. The time the next kind of pitch kind of comes up negates that. You can't go back, 3 innings ago, she missed first base, that run shouldn't have counted. Okay.
This is one of those situations where we really need to show our confidence in what we're doing, I think, and make sure that we get in a good position to actually make a good call.
Yeah.
Because obviously we get a good angle on the field, a good position on the field, that we can see the bases and the runners, and we can track the runners properly. That means that instinctively the captains of the other teams know that we are doing what we're supposed to do in the first place. So that already is helping you without doing anything. That's just taking a good position on the field. And after that, when the captain comes to you or the players appeals to you, say, yep, I saw that, she's safe. That's fine. She touched the base. Or no, she didn't touch the base. She needs to go back to second.
David, you had a question?
It gives you the confidence to actually make a good call and actually sell it to the captains as well without having much trouble.
I'm assuming this would be covered in the next section, but say she did miss second. I don't know why we just put her under the bus all of a sudden. He did touch second.
Yeah.
And came in to score. They appealed it. The runner's out. Is that correct? Or do they have to just go back to that base? Because my assumption is the runner would be out and anybody who's behind them would have to go to the previous base. But would that be covered in a further session?
Yeah, we can go into a lot more detail on it. The run won't score because it wasn't a legal run. And then we do get into all the variations of who came in after us and everything like that. We could spend another 10, 15 minutes on it now. So we won't cover it tonight, but save that question and we'll pull it out.
There is a lot of different cases and scenarios that we can go through.
And they're really good fun ones. Christopher.
Just one thing, when we talk about missed bases, as an umpire, there are only two things you can say. It's either safe or out. There's no, they don't say they missed it or they touch it. They're either out or they're safe. And that's the only thing you need to say. Nothing else. Because we don't want to start talking, we don't want to be engaged in chit chat with the players. They missed the base, yes, they're out on the appeal. If they didn't, they're safe. That's all we need to know.
Yeah, but as a player, you're going to want to know why you're out, right?
I'm
not going to accept just because I said so.
Because the appeal was made that you missed the base. Yes, you did. You're right.
Okay, so there, yeah.
So the out is the confirmation that you have seen it.
You're literally answering the question. It doesn't mean that the person receiving the answer is going to like the answer. It's very simple. You may ask the question, you might not like the answer.
Think what you do as an umpire. You call balls and strikes, fair and foul, safe and out. Did I say fair and foul?
Yeah, you said all six.
Okay, all right. That's it. We don't do anything else. Everything else, somebody has to appeal. Pretty much. I mean, it's not quite right, but that's really what we do.
That's the basic fundamentals until it gets rainy and dark, and then we kind of go on.
And then all sorts of other things happens. But our job is actually quite simple. We just let the game happen. Somebody appeals. They're either right or they're wrong. So there's only two answers: safe or out.
Yeah, and that's the bit we're coming to next. Keep going. Give us some more slides. Okay, so to enable the ball to be hit and put in the field, all right, it must pass a trajectory of over 6 feet and under 12 feet. All right. So, and that's from 50 feet away, plus that you're trying to gauge how high a ball is coming in, or how high was the arc of that ball before it kind of crossed over the plate. Okay. The basics of it, the pitcher's foot must be in contact with the pitcher's plate. All right. There must be a smooth motion. So it's no jerky motions. It's no stuttering of hands, or the ball must pass the hip in one forward pass, and there's no stop or reversal. All right. So it's one smooth present. Here's the ball. One smooth pass the hip and release. Okay. So the release must be simultaneous with a step and not between the legs or behind the back or from the glove. Okay. The arc must touch 6 foot or 1.82 meters, not more than 12 feet, and not too fast. Now, what's not too fast? No, Massimo is not too fast, but
I was never fast to start with anyway. So
yeah, that's okay. All right. So, but you're talking about was there an arc? You know, and again, if it's none of those things, it is an illegal pitch. So you're assisting the batter with a little verbal signal to say illegal, and the batter does not have to swing at that pitch. Even if the ball crosses the plate, it becomes a ball. Okay. Next slide. All right, so as the umpire, we're not in the slot anymore. So usually the umpire would be able to see the strike zone. So he's sitting on the shoulder of the catcher and tucked in behind the batter in a safe distance away. So that used to be called the pre-COVID slot. You know, the post-COVID slot is like 6 feet away and standing in a bush, you know, looking at where the strike zone is.
With
okay.
Zoom meeting put on.
Yeah. So traditionally, you would sit on the shoulder where you can see over the shoulder and see the clear strike zone. All right. So let's have a look at the strike zone, which is next. So what is the strike zone? Okay. Go on. We can move on to that one. Or back to the arc. Okay. So we look at some of those arcs. So if the ball comes in under the 6 foot line, it may cross the plate, it may cross, you know, at the batter's knee, but it hasn't hit that 6 foot arc. So a legal pitch must cross between the 6 and 12 foot barrier. All right. For excessive speed, a pitcher can be warned. You know, a second or third offense, a pitcher is removed from the pitcher. All right. But may continue to be in the field. All right. So if it's constant, quick, fast pitch, boom, 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 you know, I don't want to play slow pitch softball with this pitcher anymore. Captain, can we have another pitcher, please? Okay, next slide. So a strike zone. This is one of the most important parts of, you know, being an umpire. And there, as Christopher said, you're there to call balls and strikes. So what's a ball and what's a strike? Okay, so the strike zone varies from batter to batter in relation to the height of where the strike zone is. It doesn't vary in distance, you know, from, where's my hands? It doesn't vary in the distance over the plate. Okay, so the plate is 17 inches wide, so the ball must cross that plate. The whole ball doesn't have to cross it, so half the ball can cross it. I like to think of a strike zone as a, you know, you'll laugh at me now, as a nice puffy pink cloud of, you know, smoky air. All right. And it goes up and down depending on where the batter is. And it can be a tall batter, it's marked off their front knee and their back shoulder. Okay? So that strike zone, as we see there in red, can go up or down. It doesn't move left or right. It doesn't move forward or back. It's all the time over that home plate. So even if the batter is standing all the way back in the batter's box, the strike zone doesn't come up and isn't parallel to their chest or their knee. It always stays over the home plate. So you don't have to move if the batter is moving forward or back, because the batter has their entitlement, we'll call it, to have their feet inside the batter's box. Remember that box we spoke about earlier on, the 7 foot by 3 foot, that really isn't there, but it is there, you know. So we don't try and manage the batter inside that space, but what we always do is manage the strike zone, which never moves. It may go up or down, but it never moves left or right. It never moves forward or back. Okay, so if you can imagine a ball coming through that pink puffy cloud, so if that ball touches any part of that puffy cloud from any angle, up, down, left or right, if you can see the air move through that pink puffy cloud, that's a strike. If it goes left or right or above it or below it, that's a ball. Okay, that's how I like to keep it as simple for myself. Was it a strike? Was it a ball? I say, did it hit the pink smoke? The smoke never changes color, by the way. It's always been pink. Next one there, Masso. Okay.
That's what we were saying earlier on, irrespective of where the position of the batter is.
Okay.
The strike zone always remains in the same spot.
I didn't think he moved as much as well as that.
No. Okay. Well, we have a couple of players to do that. Okay.
So strike zone, press it away. So this is a ball that passes through the strike zones. We've got a couple of balls that pass through it. So can I click through it? So
the definition, obviously, very basic. A good pitch ball is one that passes through the strike zone, which we discussed. It's not struck at or it's the plate. If it's the plate, it's always a ball. No matter what happens, if it's the plate, it's always a ball.
And that's any part of the plate. That includes the black line around the plate as well. It's part of the plate.
So we got a few simulations. So for instance, and then we got the plate dimensions, 17 inches, 8.5 inches, and then the diagonal 12 inches.
I've never measured it, by the way, but go on.
So these ones, are they ball or strikes? You can say and raise your voice if you want to comment on this. Is this a ball or a strike? Pete Saunders is telling me it's a strike. Who wants to say no to Pete Saunders?
Yeah, I said strike.
I would say it's a strike.
That's a meatball.
What about this one? This is landing on the very back of the plate.
So lands on it.
Andrew, what do you think is that? Yeah, you can unmute yourself, Andrew.
That's a ball.
That's a ball. Okay, thank you. Now, Vinny, is this a ball or a strike? It's landing in front of the plate. Vinny, is that ball or strike? I think Vinny's saying ball. Okay, thank you. David, is the ball or strike?
That's a strike all day long, right?
Of course. In America, maybe. What about this? It's just skimming off the edge of the block in the plate. Amanda, what you think is a ball or strike?
Did you say it hit the plate?
It's just literally going along the edge.
I would hope it's a ball.
It's a ball. All right.
If it's that close, it's whatever you call it.
It's close. Let's say 17 league, 20 scores differentials. The strike zone might be a little bit larger. You never know.
Seriously,
I'm not saying you should call that a strike.
No. Oh, that is a ball, but in real life, yeah, whatever you call on anything that close. There's no one really knows.
Yeah. And the same thing, one or two balls on the edge, they're very close. There can be a lot of discussions about those, but they are balls by definition.
Can I ask a question based on that?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
I think you had maybe 2 slides ago or so, you were saying the strike zone is dependent on where you are moving. I think maybe one prior.
No.
Yeah, that
this one. Yeah.
So if you start at the back of the box, and then while the pitch is coming in, if you walk to the very front of the box, is the strike zone dependent on the back?
The strike zone is still over the plate.
Strike zone never moves, Andrew.
The strike zone doesn't move.
The batter may move.
The batter may move, but the strike zone is still behind the player if the player is that far forward. The strike zone does not follow the player. The strike zone is always on top of the plate.
But does that mean then if you stand at the very back of the zone and the ball is
at the very back of the box, yes.
Yeah, and the ball is pitched, and then you take 2 or 3 steps forward to go to the very front of the batter's box, is the strike zone is at the very back of the batter's box now. So it could be an incredibly deep ball, in your opinion.
No, that's a common misconception, especially on players, that the strike zone follows them. It doesn't. It just does not. The strike zone is always over the plate. So what you're looking at is if the ball is crossing over the plate and is not hit, whether the player stands in front of the batter box or the back of the batter box, as an umpire, I really don't care, because all I'm looking at is the plate, home plate, and when the ball is crossing home plate. Now, when the ball is crossing the front of home plate, is it over the shoulder? Is it under the shoulder, over the knee? Yes. Okay. Is it over the plate? Yes. That's a strike.
But is it crossing the shoulder and knee?
Yeah. Well,
obviously
you have an imaginary line of where the shoulder of the player are.
Yeah.
Okay. You know? So Andrew, maybe if I try and so that if you look at the dotted line, just go back to, if you look at the dotted line there, the red dotted line, you bring it, yeah. So the red dotted line at the top, all right. So the red dotted line, the very closest one, that's at the same level as the batter's shoulder.
Yeah.
Okay. The bottom line is to their back knee. So you're looking at where the height of the batter is. So they can be standing further ahead, but you're drawing a line depending on how tall that batter is. And
mine is like if the batter moves while the pitch is coming at them.
Yeah.
You know, if you set your pink puffy cloud from where the batter begins, and you're saying, okay, if the ball goes through that, it's a strike.
Yes.
But then they move while the pitch
but that pink puffy cloud is always directly over the plate.
But then how do you judge the shoulder to knee? Because if that moves.
So there is obviously there's a mechanic, there's a technique you can use there. And that's something that we normally do on the practical section on the ground. And Chris and
But the height won't change on that batter. Even if they're forward or back, their shoulder height doesn't change. And their knee height doesn't change.
So what you normally do, Andrew, especially when you're on the field, you almost stand, okay? You almost stand, and basically you look at the pitcher throwing the ball at you, okay? At the moment the ball is pitched, you decide, yes, it's okay, it's a legal height, okay? Once you decide that there's a legal height, what a lot of us do, and actually we are taught this in the courses with the WBSC as well, is you just drop a little bit so that your eyes go online with the shoulder of the batter. Now, once you do that, at that point, all you have to concern yourself is whether the ball is crossing the plate or not, because your eyes are already in line with the shoulder of the batter. So you made your life a lot easier in trying to judge a proper strike zone.
Yeah. So you'll set up depending on their height and then just look at the
exactly.
Plate and
you just drop your eye levels to the shoulders, and all you have to worry now is the ball crossing the plate or not.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, moving on then. Plate dimensions, balls and strikes. Again, if it touches any part of the plate, it's a ball. You hit the corners and it'll run off flat. That's how you know. You'll hear. So you're using your eyes and your ears in this instance. Okay. Okay, so balls and strikes. Each batter gets 3 strikes, 4 balls. You can use your good mechanics to get your best view. A little bit difficult when you're, 2, 3, 4 meters away now at this stage. Don't rush your call. So it's a little bit of time. What actually happened here? There's a ball across the plate. What happened? And you can give yourself a second or 2 before you make that call. As where the ball's crossing over, boom, ball strike. You can be sometimes a little bit too quick. So set your own pace, set your own time. We'll do that when, you know, we have a little bit of opportunity to run through the mechanics. Again, you're double checking the shoulder and the knee. Again, the strike zone doesn't move. Even if they rush forward, you're kind of going, where's the bottom of that strike zone in the spot that I'm looking at? All right. And not everybody's perfect. Don't understand that. Don't know what that means. Okay.
And players and coaches cannot argue unless your name is Lupinella, obviously.
Yeah, I just look at that that coach, you know, arguing there with a, you know, I seem to have lost my slides, Massimo. Oh, there they are. Yeah. Oh, gone. Yeah, I wouldn't be having anybody checking cavities in that instance. Okay. Next one. Okay. So any questions on that? You know, Andrew, you got in there early anyway. Are you okay with, Andrew, you okay with the strike zone in relation to, you know, because I know you play with a team that people like to run up and down boxes, you know, and, you know, jump in and stay at the back and run in and take a pitch. You know, that's
well, it's more just that there's, you know, I don't think I've ever played a game that there hasn't been somebody complain about the strike zone, or, you know, there's always someone asks, where is it? So it's a, you know, it's nice to have a clear-cut answer of, there you go.
Yeah.
That's it.
And that's it. And maybe that's because, you know, I don't do a lot of your divisional games. So maybe, you know, this year I get an opportunity to come in and teach Ken where a strike zone is.
As long as he hits it, fine.
Yeah. Christopher.
Well, just to put it simply, remember we are the umpire. The strike zone, it's always in the same place, whoever is umpiring. Like for sure it is, all right? Yeah. We know it isn't, all right? But whatever we decide the strike zone is, on the first pitch, that is still the strike zone on the last pitch at the bottom of the 7th innings. It never, ever changes, right? We might have a small strike zone, we might have a large strike. We have a very good umpire in the UK, and I've heard people refer to him as letterbox. Right? But the point is, the pitchers know, it's always the same. It never changes. All right, so the good pitcher will adapt to the strike zone that the umpire is calling. And when you know, after we've done the pre-game meeting and you've started the game, you call play ball. The first thing we've got to do is judge whether it's a ball or a strike. It's going to set the tone for the rest of the game. If it's a strike, let people know it's a bloody good strike. You know, it's a loud call, you know, and bang, put it up there and actually force the strike call out. Then there's no doubt. It's when we see umpires, especially new umpires, and I know it's very difficult, they watch it and then, strike. Yeah, nobody's going to believe you. Yeah. So whatever you do, do it with confidence. Do it loudly, and that's it. It's a simple thing. Strike, that's it. Next pitch, please. Getting used to the strike zone, I think in slow pitch it's actually very difficult. We've had a lot of fast pitch umpires, ESF fast pitch umpires who come to convert to slow pitch. Now, you would think that it's much easier with the slow pitch strike zone. It isn't. They all struggle with it. Remember, in fast pitch and in baseball, it's a flat, the umpire is down stationary, they're not moving. The ball is coming flat, all right? They just need to know the height, but it's quite easy to determine, you know, okay, so we've got breaking balls and curve balls and so on. Does it cross the plate? Yes. Now, in slow pitch, look, the umpire, the pitcher can step left or right off the pitching rubber as long as 1 foot is in contact. So if they're pitching with their arm outstretched, they could be 5 feet outside the channel and then pitching, and you can see a strike that lands in the opposite batter's box because it's touched the front corner of the plate within the strike zone. So it's actually quite difficult, and we've got a ball that's dropping, right? And we have to determine where it's actually going to drop. I mean, later on, I'm sure Paul and Massimo will give you lots of clues on how to work these things out. But the important thing is, if it's a strike, call it, make sure everybody knows, and don't change that strike zone for the rest of the game.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I umpired a lot of baseball before switching to slow pitch, and I think I was talking to Andrew last week. We had a face-to-face on this topic as well. I found I still find to these days calling a baseball strike zone probably a lot easier than calling a slow pitch, because all I have to worry about in baseball is if the pitcher's doing a balk and it's a strike or a ball, and it's coming as fast as you can, and you have literally a split second to make a decision, and you make it, and that's it. You don't think about it. In slow pitch, I have to think about the pivot foot, the pitcher not leaving the rubber, the arm swing, the height of the ball, whether it's coming in front of the plate or touching or sort of flying over the plate even one little bit, and then whether it's over the shoulder under. It's so much to take into consideration. It's probably the most difficult strike or ball call to make in the across all codes, because there's so much engineering to it that it's just a really complex call to make. So it's not an easy call to make.
We look forward to practicals.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Right, let's get through these slides.
Martin, Peter, you wanted to add something to this?
Oh, the other thing I was going to say, adding on to what Chris said, consistency. Pitchers hate your strike zone moving, so keep your strike zone consistent. And yeah, the pitcher will pitch to that. Good pitchers will.
Pink fluffy cloud never moves.
No, absolutely.
Okay.
All right, we'll start sharing again. We keep losing Martin. I think he's having problems with connection.
Yeah, I'm having troubles with connection. I'm traveling at the moment down to Dublin, so I'm on the road, but I'm listening.
No problem.
Okay, let's go. Intentional walk. We're not going to spend any time on this at all, but it really affects in our co-ed game when there are 2 outs and we have a female batter that has the option to either bat the ball or take a walk to first base. Okay, must notify the umpire that before the pitch takes place that the batter is going to take a walk. If she steps into the batter's box, she must remain in the batter's box. All right. So that's again, the ball is dead. Runners cannot. That's forced. We'll come back to that. We don't have. Sorry. No, sorry. Intentional walks. I was mixing that up with something else. I was looking at my my female batter taking a walk with 2 outs. So sorry, an intentional walk. I probably better read it off and stick to script. I'm getting tired now. So the pitcher or the catcher, they manage to desire, they want to walk a batter. I get this quite a lot with pitchers who don't want me to hit the ball anymore. So I step up to the plate and they kind of raise their hand and say, umpire, we're going to walk Paul from here on in. We're tired of him hitting home runs. All right. And they'll give me second base. All right. That's really what it is. If it's a female batter, they're going to intentionally walk, they'll give her first base. All right.
Okay. And the important thing here is there is a very clear distinction between softball and baseball here, is that in softball, the pitcher declares a walk and there's no pitches thrown at all, and the walker and the batter just walks to the base. While in baseball, for instance, the pitcher is still throwing 4 balls with a catcher standing literally outside with a glove and everything. So there's still a bit of more theatric in baseball than there is in slow pitch softball, for instance.
All right, next one there, Mas. Catcher's box. We're going to skip catcher's box because it's not important in a COVID era. But basically, what it is, the catcher must remain in that box behind both batters' boxes. We don't usually mark it out. And again, it's, I forget the dimensions on it. And it's something like 12 foot by 12 foot, or 6 foot by, Pete, Christopher, I'm going to put you on the spot now. What's the measurements of catcher's box? Don't go looking for it.
Pete's going to look for it. Whatever.
Don't go looking for it.
Marked out.
It's 3 foot and 3 foot plus 17 inches plus 6 inches. So it's, it's about 8 foot by 8 foot.
8'5" by 10 foot.
Yeah, see, there you go. Okay.
Just a guess.
Just a guess.
Just a guess from the WBSC rulebook.
Maybe.
Go on. It's not.
Maybe.
It's not important now. Batter's box. Again, we don't use batter's box at the moment, so it's something we'll come back to again. But you know, if you're our Massimo, or like I used to be, you have a big sheet of cardboard in your car and you spray paint it down. Both batters' feet must be within the box. They can be on the lines. If the whole foot is outside the line and they've made contact with the ball, that batter is out. So it's the same as somebody stepping on the plate. So a batter puts their foot on the plate while making contact with the ball. You now know that that batter is out because their foot has been outside the box. Okay? Ball is dead and the batter is out.
And the line is part of the box.
Yeah. Next one. Fair and foul balls. All right. And this is our lines on either side of the field. There are three areas to consider. The infield, where the ball is touched or settled. All right. So there's a separate set of rules for where the ball, what happens to the ball between the bases. And then we have a very clear distinction from between home plate and first base, and then from first base out to the end of the field. All right. And then left or right of that. So in the infield, it's where the ball is touched or settled determines whether the ball is fair or foul. So the dark green, as we see here, is fair territory. The lighter green is foul territory. So if the ball is hit in the first instance and it lands where it is at the moment here in front of the catcher's plate, it is a fair ball. If it's anywhere on the lighter shade of green, I'm trying to get a color for it, it's a foul ball. Okay? That's it. Very basically, the ball can travel into fair territory and travel back out. So just back one there, Massimo.
Yeah.
So a ball can travel on the infield. It traveled in fair and it spun out and landed in foul territory before the bases. All right? So it's in the infield, it's where the ball settles or is touched. Make sense?
So we had quite a few situations in the last game.
Keep the situations light, Massimo. We're running out of time.
Yeah. No, but just to go to this, the key point here is there is two things to consider: where the feet of the players are in certain situations, but more importantly, where the ball touches. Okay. So in this case, why this area is light blue is because if the ball is touched inside the field and then goes out after third base, okay, then that ball is fair and remains in place. But if
it's touched by somebody in fair territory,
if it's touched in fair territory and goes out in foul territory,
bounces off the glove,
it's still fair after the base. Okay. If it's touched this way, it's still after. Let's say it's still after the base, and it's touched in this area and drops, is a foul ball. Okay. So where you touch the ball, where the player touches the ball, is the main thing. I can be a player that has the 2 feet completely outside in foul territory, but the glove is inside, and I touch the ball inside and then goes out, and I'm past third base.
Yeah, okay.
That ball is fair.
So if we run the scenarios before anybody touching it at all. So the scenario is if the ball lands in the darker green, it's fair.
Yes.
Okay. If it lands in the lighter green, it's foul. Now we get into other scenarios. If the ball, let's say, goes into the infield, all right, so it's anywhere between first and third base, and then rolls out,
then
right,
in that case it's a
foul. Or if it rolls out past, so if it touches the ground past first base and then rolls into foul territory,
then
that's
it's
a fair ball. Okay, that's the only distinction. So anything before, if it touches dark green before the bases and goes into light green, and finishes in the light green, it's a foul ball. If it's after the baseline, in dark green and lands in light green, that's a fair ball. Make sense?
Okay. So there's a couple of things. Where versus the base the ball is going out. If it's going out before first or before third, or it's going out after third or after first. That's an important consideration to ask ourselves.
We need a couple of videos on this to show it better.
I think we can go and select a couple of situations. Yeah. Then the next question we have to ask ourselves is, was the ball touched in fair territory or in foul territory? Not the feet are not important here. Is where the ball is touched that's important.
Yeah.
That's why I made the example of myself standing with my feet in foul territory, but my glove is inside the field, past third base, I touch the ball. That is still a fair ball. Okay? Any questions on this?
No, all good. Roll it on there, Colette.
Okay. Yeah, that would be a break now. Is anyone wants to ask questions? Yeah, go ahead, Peter.
Again, it's a statement rather than a question. If the ball is rolling, it's inside the diamond and it's still rolling and rolling, wait until it's stopped or is touched before calling it fair or foul. Don't be, you can see the ball's rolling foul, so you call foul ball, it hits a bump and rolls fair, it's now fair. So you have to wait for it to stop or be touched before you make a fair or foul call. It's something that, a lot of newish umpires tend to call too early. So,
and wait for it to stop. Some batters don't like that because they're already running down first base and they're, why didn't you call it until I kind of ran for
Because I like making you run.
The ball is still moving. It could hit a bump and could roll back in again.
And Andrew was the victim of that on Tuesday. I umpired Andrew's team on Tuesday, and I had a couple of situations where the runner was already in first base when I called foul ball because I was waiting for the ball to stop moving.
Just a quick question on the intentional walk.
Yeah, sorry. Yep. Yes, David.
If you're walking a male batter, if there is another male directly behind them, do they still go to second? Because usually the walk only goes to second if there's a female behind.
No,
so
it's a one base.
Okay.
It's a one base. So
I thought so, but I was just clarifying.
The intentional walk is the exact same rule as any walk. Okay? So whether it's a pitch walk or intentional walk, the rule is still the same. Male batter followed by a female batter, 2 bases. Male batter followed by another male batter, 1 base. And then obvious, And then on the 2 outs, male batter followed by a female batter, the female batter can elect whether to bat or walk. We should not be reminding them. They should know the rule themselves. So we're not taking any part in that. If the female batter goes and stays in the batter box, she's batting. We're not telling her that she can walk.
Okay.
All right.
A couple more slides, and then we'll let you hit the beer. Christopher, Peter, the pub's open in England yet?
Yes.
Probably, but I've got a cup of tea.
There you go.
about 2 weeks they've been open.
We've got a couple of slides just to run through the very basic signals. All right. Again, these are ones that we normally kind of finish off, let you practice and whatever else. So, but a strike zone is always with the right hand, left hand, across, the abdomen, lower chest, and it's a, high pump action. Next one. So it's a time call, foul ball, dead ball, no pitch. It's everything stops, stop, 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 stop. All right, but you don't do the stop, stop, stop. You just do the one signal call, time, or foul ball, dead ball, no pitch. All right, next one. You give your count. So 3 and 2.
Balls on the left hand, strikes on the right hand.
Always keep your balls in your left hand. That's the simple rule. Right hand for strikes, like your strike zone. Amanda, stop. All right, just stop it. There's no need to be sniggering away there now. All right. Safe call is that big spread eagle, arms out as far as they'll go, and a nice loud safe call. All right. It would be worse if you were sitting in a classroom with me. All right. Again, I have to move. I've slides in it. And the out is again like a strike call. It's high and pump action down. Like you're
like a hammer. Yeah.
Ringing the church bell. All right. Fair ball. So remember we had our fair and foul balls earlier on. You want to signal, give a visual signal to the teams that the ball is fair. You do not want to say anything. You just want to point to the infield, to the dark green. The ball is in play. If it goes into foul ball territory, what are you going to do? Both hands in the air, foul ball. All right, so play stops because the ball is not in play.
And an important thing is the fair ball call is actually not a vocal call. It's just a signal with your hand inside the field. You do not say anything because anything you can say may confuse the players that are playing around. So it's very important you say absolutely nothing. You just point a finger, point your hand towards the field, and that's it. That's all you do. You don't have to say or shout anything.
And you're going to do that where it is a little bit contentious as well. So we don't have nice crisp white lines, but we'll try and have cones, and we'll try and pick a marker off. So it's your judgment being in a better position than maybe a fielder to know where that line is. Right? So you don't want them running off to one side of the pitch, so you stop them if it's foul. Hands up, foul ball. And if it's fair, you're pointing them, ball's live, continue playing. Off you go. You're not interrupting anybody with a vocal call, as Massimo says.
Yeah. And the other thing, actually, that's an important thing that you can always help yourselves with the pregame when you talk to the captains. When you talk about fair and foul, or you establish what the fair and foul is, what your markers are for the fair and foul calls. And one thing I always say to the captains is, follow my voice. If it's foul, I'll shout. If it's not foul, I will say nothing. And you keep playing. I always warn them about that.
Until you make a mistake and forget to go.
Until I mess things up, obviously. But that's kind of a part of the game. But at least they know what to expect from me in terms of how I'm going to manage the situation. So they know that if there's a tight call in third base or in first base, I'm taking the line. I'm going to look what it is. If I point here and say nothing, they'll keep playing. And nobody will say anything because they were warned at the beginning of the game, before the game.
Okay. Before we go, any questions? We're not going to do that yet. We're not going to do delayed dead balls. Too complicated to do over Zoom.
I was just going to say, Massimo really said it as well. Make your calls loud. It makes you sound authoritative. If you shout nice and loud, everyone can hear you. People get on with it. If you're hesitant in your calls and you're almost sort of questioning, people will start to doubt you. The louder you are, the more people believe you. It works.
Okay, around the shops. Andrew, any questions?
Not a question, more just, I suppose, in relation to David's question from the very beginning about having a female catcher and that thing. Apparently, according to the softball Leinster bylaws, if you're playing 6-on-4, 6 guys, 4 girls, the catcher has to be male, but you can have a male or female pitcher. So then if the pitcher is female, you can have 3 guys in the infield, but the catcher must be male.
Must be male, yeah.
Yeah,
so you can't have a girl at 1 and catcher and 3 guys.
Andrew, in that case, you have to refer to softball Leinster rule book.
That's like in softball Leinster, apparently rule 2.5.
Yeah, but you need to refer to softball Ireland rule book, because if there's a discrepancy between the two of them, softball Ireland rule book is the one that trumps the situation. But
Andrew, thank you for doing the homework while I was in my head.
Yeah.
But in general, yes, the principle is that the catcher is a male, but the main thing is that the 2-and-2 split has to be preserved.
Yeah.
So
Christopher, don't worry about it. It's one of our little anomalies.
It's okay.
Amanda.
It's one of the local rules, Chris. Doesn't apply
Amanda.
to you guys.
Or you
Any
can see
questions?
cringing, can you?
Yeah, exactly.
No. David, any questions?
Nope, I'm good.
You've all been very good.
Vinny?
Vinny's good.
Yeah, I just had one question. So what do you do when you do make a bad call, and you know you've made a bad call? Do you just instantly say what you think is actually right, or?
Yep. If you've made a bad call and you kind of, oh, you know what, I made a mistake there, change the call. There's no point kind of going, oh, sticking with it. Oh, I can't look like an idiot here now. You're going to look more like an idiot if you know you've made a mistake and don't change it. If we all make mistakes and you're a bigger man or a bigger woman, if you're able to stand up, you know what, I made a mistake there now. Let's fix it now. I wouldn't go back and fix it 5 minutes from now. But if you realize at that particular time, you know what, I've made a mistake, and please learn from that mistake and don't do it again. Because as an umpire, you don't want to be changing your mind every minute of every day. If, you know what, I actually did make a mistake there, and he is out or she is in or whatever the case may be, hold your hands up and say, you know what, and I've had to do it myself on maybe one occasion. And
you see, I can't answer a question. I don't know what a backhaul is. So
yeah, well, that's because we're all too polite, Massimo.
There is a section in the rule.
It's a case of the teams respect you a whole lot more if you're able to go, you know what, I actually made a big mistake there, and and you put it behind you and you move on. No big deal. Good question, Vinny.
Yeah. There is a rule that covers this or a section in the rule book on umpiring that covers this. If you make a decision that puts a team at a disadvantage, you can do something about it. So you can have that as your test before your next call is go and find it in the rule book.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Go find
Richard?
that one.
You might have to look deep, but you'll find it.
All good. Thanks.
Okay, Richard. Martin, are you still there?
I am still there. Now, maybe related to making a bad call or making a mistake, I just like to say ball game.
Yeah, that's the way to.
We haven't finished yet.
I wasn't going to mention that.
And then ball game again, and then ball game again.
You got 5 severely for that one.
Yeah.
Amanda, you had a
Okay.
question or? No.
Yes,
Okay.
good.
Cool.
Pete,
Guys-
Christopher, anything you'd like to add? As you know,
No, I was quite interested. Pete and I were working on something for BASU and possibly for WBSC Europe on training modules. So we just wanted to really sit in and see how you're doing this because we haven't done ours yet. We're still working on things, and we've probably got some information that when it's ready, we'll be happy to share with you.
Yeah.
But it's going to take us quite a few months because we've got an awful lot of visual stuff and animation.
And I think as we can all see here today, like the visuals are, if you threw in a couple of little videos, a couple of little, demonstrations, it would make it so much easier rather than having to look at my face or, God forbid, just slides all day, every day,
At some stage fairly soon, we're going to have a little meeting when we've got some sections ready that we think we'd like to use. Maybe we could ask you and Massimo to join us on one of these calls, and
Absolutely.
you can watch what we've prepared, and then we'd be interested in receiving your feedback from it before we start releasing things to umpires in this country.
Sure, no problem.
That would be great. Absolutely. If we can help with anything, I think sharing the information, especially given we have neighbors associations in a sense.
Yeah, I mean,
I think it makes sense if we can help each other. Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, Pete and I have masses and masses of information from Softball Australia, Softball Canada, USA
New
Softball.
Zealand,
We have lots and lots of stuff. So, you know, if you need anything that we can help you with.
Sure.
We
Thank you
have
very much.
permission from all those countries to actually use their material. So, yeah, just ask.
No, that'd be great. Absolutely.
Thank you, Pete.
Thank you.
All right. Guys, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for participating on this. I think it was very important for us to get a good start on this type
Send the
of
test out
initiatives.
by email, and we'll have it back by tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock.
Just a
And,
very quick follow-up. Will there be a section 2, or what
will,
is?
yeah.
Yes, yes.
will there be
We
information coming out?
are actually going to have at least 2 more sessions, probably 3.
Yeah, this is just one. This is a really practical pilot, I suppose, more so than anything else. Like we've run these courses before, but not necessarily online or over Zoom or anything. So it's a big test in that. There will be things obviously we need to change. Your feedback will be very, important to us. What worked, what didn't work, and then we can adapt that in whatever other modules we need to do.
Well,
Some of it is just, like we could sit here and we could read the rule book to you if you wanted, but no, we're not going to do that either.
There is definitely going to be 2 more sessions, and we're going to look maybe at more advanced situations in terms of game management, basics of game management, interference, obstructions, scoring, awarding bases, 1 base, 2 base, 3 base awards, all that sort of stuff. So there is a lot that we can go through still, and then a possible additional session on rules, just specifically on rules. We can. The idea is to leverage the polls feature here in Zoom to actually go through the sort of a live rules test where we.
And we have Andrew there on standby to kind of check through the.
The rule book, exactly.
Thank you.
So let's say we put a question to you, true or false, so you have a minute to respond to that poll, and then we see what the responses are, so that we see how many people are getting that rule right or wrong, and then we can discuss on that rule, that sort of thing. But we're still figuring that out because that's a little bit more complex to organize. There was a question from some of you in terms of the slides. Absolutely, if you want to have a copy of the slides, just send me an email and I'll telling me that if you're interested, and I'll send them over to you. That's absolutely no problem. And again, thank you to Martin, Christopher, and Peter and Sander, especially for taking the time to join in and help with the discussion and answering the question. That's always very much appreciated. I think the cooperation between with the British Association has been vital for Ireland. So absolutely delighted to have you on board, guys, and to have Martin, even if he's driving to Dublin. And obviously, a big thank you. I think big thank you to Paul Picker for offering this time to present the course today. I think it's very much appreciated. Thank you very much to everybody.
Good night, everybody. See you all soon.
Thank you.
That's the
Thank you all. Good night.
All right, thanks.
See you now. Bye.